Hi, this is Grandma Lorie with the story of the children of Israel leaving Egypt and their first adventures in the great desert. Moses and his people left Egypt, free at last, and carrying gold and silver the people of Egypt had given them. As they marched out of Egypt, the Lord God went before them, so they would not be able to forget him. In the daytime, God made a great cloud, like a giant pillar, moving in front of them and shading them from the baking sun. All of the millions of Israelites could see the pillar to reassure them that the Lord was real and was guiding them. At night, the cloud turned into a tall pillar of fire so they could see their way to make camp for the night. It was a comforting night light for all the people to see so they would not forget it was God who led them. When the pillar stopped moving, the people stopped right there. When the pillar moved on, the people moved on too. Now, think way back in this story. Remember when Joseph of the coat of many colors was taken a slave into Egypt and then became the high governor of Egypt? Well, he left a command for the Israelites that when he died, they must not bury his body in Egypt, but keep it in a great stone coffin and someday carry it back to the promised land for burial. So, 400 years later, when they left Egypt, the two tribes of Joseph's sons, that's Ephraim and Manasseh, carried Joseph's coffin with them on a great wheeled wagon during their journey to bury it in the promised land. Thus, the whole mob of millions of Israelites headed for the land of Canaan, their own promised land where their fathers had come from. They traveled south and east toward the Red Sea, which rolled between them and the desert beyond. I'll show you this map. Do you see the red line? That's the trip that Moses took to get to Midian when he was only about 40 years old. But the whole tribe of Israel took this black route down to here. In several days, they came to the shore of the Red Sea with deep water in front of them and high mountains on each side. How could they go forward? They were trapped by the sea in front of them. During these same days, back in Egypt, Pharaoh was shocked at himself.
What on earth was I thinking? How will my country build cities or grow crops and animals without slaves? I must gather my army and go after them. We will bring them back. Or if they defy us, we will kill them all.
Now, I'm sure many of you have seen the movie called The 10 Commandments. If you have not, I beg you to watch it on YouTube or check it out from your library. One scene from this movie is amazing and worth watching again. There's no way I could describe it as well as the movie shows it. So I've put that scene here in our story.
Was it because there were no graves in Egypt that you took us away to die in the wilderness?
Why did we die?
Fear not. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord.
The pillar of fire!
It is the breath of God.
Great one! You cannot reach the fire of God!
Gather your families and your flocks. We must go with all speed.
Go where? To drown in the sea? How long will the fire hold Pharaoh back?
Will it hold?
After this day, you shall see his chariots no more.
No! You'll be dead under them!
The Lord of hosts will do battle for us. Behold his mighty hand. God opens the sea with the blast of his nostrils. Lead them through the midst of the waters. His will be done.
He opens the waters before them, and he bars our way with fire. Let us go from this place. Men cannot fight against a god.
Better to die in battle with a god than live in shame.
Praise God and down into it!
Is your life worth so much?
Fire dies.
Sound the pursuit. This is work for a butcher, not a pharaoh. Destroy them all, but bring Moses to me alive.
Rebels, here! Hard!
the chariot! Ah! Run! Run! Run for your life! Run!
Better to serve the Egyptians than to die here.
Who shall withstand the power of God? Thou didst blow with thy winds, and the sea covered them. Who is like unto thee, O Lord? From everlasting to everlasting, thou art God.
So the army of Egypt was chasing the host of Israel. When Pharaoh's army came after them, the waters closed and drowned them. Thus, God brought his people out of Egypt into a land they had never seen before. The Israelites cried out with thanks and gladness to the Lord. They camped overnight. In the morning, many shouted out, "Moses, we're in a desert with no water and no fields of crops. What are we going to eat and drink?" Moses replied,
I told you to bring food for a few days. That is what you must eat for now. If you have no food, drink milk from your cows and goats, or kill a chicken or duck and share the meat with others.
Well, that only worked for a few days. Then the people complained again.
Moses, our animals have no water to drink, so they will die.
Another cried, "Moses, we have no more grain to make bread. Surely we will starve." One woman shouted, "And they can't eat any more of my chickens. I only have a few left. Besides, my chickens can't lay eggs unless they get food and water. All of us are going to die in this desert." I want you to remember that there was nothing but sand and stones for their roads, and mountains rose up all around with only a few little springs of water very far apart. Plus, there were 2 to 5 million Israelites and multi-millions of animals. Such a huge host of men, women, children, and animals would need a lot of water. They came to one well that had flooded into a big pond, but the water was bitter and nasty to drink. So the people cried to Moses, "We can't drink this, it's nasty." Moses cried to the Lord,
Lord, this water is too bitter to drink. What shall we do?
The Lord said,
Moses, see that tree? Cut it down and throw it into the water.
Moses did, and within minutes the water became fresh and pure, so the people and animals could drink all they wanted. But very soon, all the food they brought along was used up. Again the people wailed at Moses,
We should have stayed in Egypt. At least there we had meat and bread to eat, even if we were slaves.
Again Moses called upon God, and the Lord said,
Tonight I will give enough meat to last a month. After that I will rain bread from heaven upon you, and you shall go out and gather it. In this way you shall know that I am your God, and will take care of my people, even though they do nothing but complain.
That evening, a giant flock of quail were flying over the Red Sea. God blew them with his winds across the desert toward the Israelites. The birds were exhausted by the time they got to the Israelite camp and simply fell out of the sky like big fat rain all over the ground. The camp was covered with quail. People grabbed a few quail, cleaned them, and roasted them for dinner. They ate until they were full. Then they laid out extra quail meat to dry on rocks in the hot desert sun to save for the month to come. One morning, at the end of the month, the people looked out of their tents and saw little white things, like small peas, piled up on the sand. They had never seen anything like that before, and they asked, "What is it? What is this?" In the language of the Hebrews, that question is manhu, manhu. So the people said to one another, "Manhu, what is this stuff?" And this gave a name to what they saw, the name manna. Moses said to them,
"This is the bread which the Lord has given you to eat. Go out and gather it, as much as you need for today only, but no more. It will rot if you save it overnight. God will send you more tomorrow."
So the people went out and gathered the manna. It was little hard balls the size of small peas, but tasted like sweet cereal. Think of corn pop cereal, but much smaller. They could grind it up and cook it any way they wanted, as porridge, or as cookies, or pancakes, or loaves. It was made specially by the Lord to contain all the vitamins and minerals that would keep the people strong and healthy for years. Some people did not trust what God said. They took more manna than they needed so they would have some for the next day. But the next morning they said, "Yuck! This manna I saved from yesterday stinks! It's gone rotten! Ooh, it has worms in it!" So every family learned not to take more than they needed for one day. Moses told them,
"On the 6th morning you must gather twice as much manna to last you through the Sabbath day. On the Sabbath you must rest from all your work. But don't worry, on that day the manna will not rot or have worms. The Lord will bless it to stay fresh."
Now, I don't know how God could have proved to be any more miraculous. Manna for 6 days and no manna on the 7th, and one food that contained all the nutrients they would need while living in the desert. That cannot be explained away as a natural phenomenon or an accident for many, many years. Those who obeyed Moses found that the manna did not go rotten overnight on the 6th day. But those who did not obey God or save enough extra for the 7th day were surprised when they went outside to collect their breakfast. They said, "Wait, there's no manna this morning. What are we supposed to eat?" Those disobedient Israelites learned their lesson right away. Moses explained,
"One day in each week belongs to God and is to be kept holy to the Lord. You shall not work on the Lord's day."
Anybody who ever said, "I think I'll sleep in and gather my manna later today," they got a surprise, because every morning when the sun came up, the manna that was still on the ground that had not been gathered up had melted away, just like frost or snowflakes in hot sun. So all through the years the Israelites lived in the wilderness, they ate the manna which God gave them day by day. Not until they entered the land of Canaan, which was their promised land, did the manna stop coming each morning. But God commanded Moses to keep a jar of manna in the sacred Ark of the Covenant to remind them of this miracle. That manna would never go bad, but always stay fresh. And wherever that ark is, the manna is still in it. Now, what is the Ark of the Covenant? Have you seen the movie of Indiana Jones? In that movie, the Germans find the ark and it melts their bodies. That didn't really happen, but it's a great movie. Too bad nobody drew a picture, but this is the description in the Bible. It's covered with gold all over, with 2 winged cherubim on top. God never tells us what cherubim really are, but this description is probably what makes everyone think angels have wings. There are lots more thrills, miracles, and hardships ahead for the children of Israel. And I'll tell you the most important one next time. Goodbye for now.